Avalon here, and welcome back to Simply Avalon. And as you guys can tell from the title, I'm going to be doing a junior year reflection video. I'm really excited because this is a kind of bittersweet moment, guys. I have one more year left in high school and then I am done for good. And it's kind of crazy to think that 3 years ago I was a freshman, and not only a freshman, but I was just really starting out on this channel in general. And now you see I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, and just so much has happened in my life, and it's been a wild ride. And to think that I have only one more year left with the same group around me is just really crazy to think about. And I guess we should go ahead and get started with the video so I don't like start crying right now. So first things first, let's talk about the start of junior year. I decided to take 8 classes instead of 7, and this is where I kind of want to actually talk about a point that I feel like is really tossed around a lot. Junior year is the worst year of your life, especially in high school. And to a certain extent, I agree, but not in the way that you're probably thinking. Junior year is what you make it out to be. It can't be terrible if you caused it on yourself in a way. Well, it can be terrible, but at the same time, you're kind of causing some of that terribleness. And let me explain myself really quickly.
Basically, your junior year is as bad as you make it out to be. You make a conscious decision with every class and leadership position you agree to. And if you overload yourself, then of course it won't be fun. But if you find a way to balance, you'll be able to have a great school year. So it's just a matter of making the right choices.
For me, junior year was actually a pretty great year. It felt slightly easier than sophomore year in some respects, simply because I actually had a class that I could call a study hall this year, even though it wasn't an actual study hall, and last year I did not, and that was just super stressful. But this year, I chose to take one extra class than I had to, and that is what made my junior year, at least my first semester, a little extra stressful. I chose to do extra things that I did not have to do and that I was not doing before. Sophomore year, I had barely any leadership positions. I only had German club. I was the secretary of that in sophomore year, and I think that's all. But this year I decided to take on more leadership positions. I was voted the president of my key club, and I was fulfilling my presidential duties this past year, and that was definitely an experience. It really taught me a lot. I was continuing on as editor of my newspaper. I was just in general doing a lot, and that's on top of sports and just wanting to have an all-around social life in general on top of your actual schoolwork. And I was also taking my first AP classes this year because this is the first year that you're allowed to at my school. So I say all of this to say that this year was stressful because I chose to make it stressful. I chose to do more things than I had done in years past, and because of that, I was stressed out a bit more than I had been in previous years. Does that mean that my junior year was all out terrible, just the worst years of my life? I don't think so. I actually think that my junior year was pretty fun, but it definitely can be a little bit more if you put too much on yourself. If you pile your plate up too high, then obviously you're not going to like that year as much. And you guys already saw I barely posted this past year, mostly because I've been really busy with my responsibilities at school and in my family and in my life just in general, that I just really did not have time. But just to brush over that a tiny bit also, junior year, homecoming was so much fun. I already posted my video about that, and I never actually mentioned this on my channel, mostly because I wasn't posting during this time in my life. But I also had my first boyfriend during this period, and it was an interesting experience to say the least. I'm not really going to go that far into it, even though it happened, we were already broken up, it happened a while ago, and I really should be over it by now, but I just don't think that this is the place or the time for me to talk about that. So if you guys want a video on that, sure, I can hash that out later, but yes, that happened, and it was definitely a growing experience, learning more about the person that I would like to be with. But that definitely made junior year a tiny bit more dramatic. This entire year, as more of my friends begin to date and also just have crushes that go a little bit further than others did in the past, was definitely something that made junior year different than other years, because now that most of us can drive, it's like the friend dynamics is much different. I feel like that was actually a big change my junior year, was the fact that I could hang out with a lot of my friends more than I used to, because I could actually drive myself around now. One thing that I never told you guys though was that I did not get a car on my birthday. It didn't happen. It was actually a Christmas gift. So there's that. But for instance, my friends Shannon and Ashton, I'm so much closer to them now, and just because I can drive and I can actually go out to festivities and do things with them more so than I had in the past. And the same with Joy also, but those are only people I'm gonna name drop as of now. But junior year is a really, really fun time if you make it out to be. One thing that I would suggest doing is studying for the AP classes early. I felt like I ran into that issue big time, especially with AP chemistry. I already knew I was struggling in that class. Even though I was making an A, I knew that I was not putting myself in position to actually pass the actual exam. And by the time I started studying, it was a bit too late. I still think I passed it and got at least a 3, hopefully. But if I didn't, I know that it's on me this time, simply because I started too late. When I did start, I already had gotten a book back in January and December. I got 2 different books, but I didn't actually start truly going over the material until March. Late March, early April. And I feel like that's just not enough time if you really want to put yourself in the position to get a 4 or 5 on the exam, especially if you already know that you are on the lower end of the spectrum. When I was taking my first practice test, I already said I got a 2 on it, and when I took another one, I got a 3. You definitely have to start practicing for those exams early. I will say that my final grade in AP Chemistry for the second semester was an A+, because I did really, really well second semester, not necessarily because the material was easier, but just because I kind of got more into the rhyme of things. I think that's the saying. But that semester definitely went a little bit better than my first semester, because my first semester I got an A- in that class, and I got an 89 on that exam. But also, that's another thing, at my school I do not have final exams for second semester if you take an AP class. So that was really great, and that helped out a lot. But that was really, really stressful, the fact that I had multiple AP classes, and then you also have your regular honors classes where they still expect you to do work despite the fact that you have AP classes that you should be studying for. And that was really hard to manage my time between, simply because you don't know what you should study first. I knew that my strong suit was AP US History, so I was finding that I was watching those crash course videos. I was doing everything I could just to try and make sure I got a 5 on that exam, because that was the grade that I wanted. And I feel like I'll probably get either a 4 or 5, hopefully, on that exam, but we shall see. That class was easily my favorite. I ended it with an A+, loved my teacher, and it was really, really great. I will say that if you don't have a good teacher, or if it's not offered at your school, that is the one class that you can for sure self-study for, because it's not that the history changes between your honors and your AP class, it's just that the way that you look at the history changes. Instead of you just looking at what are the events, you're looking at what caused this event. How did it change the path of history, all that kind of stuff, and it's really, really interesting. Sorry, I'm a history buff. I'm geeking out. Another class that we ended the year was AP English Language, and I felt really good about that AP exam. I had to study a bit for that one, mostly because I was studying vocabulary that we would see on that exam, and then also studying for timing wise, because that exam in particular was kind of hard for me to get the time management on without having my teacher telling us every 15 minutes that we need to get to the next passage. I still think I did really well on that exam, so I'm feeling pretty strongly about that one. We'll see what I get on the actual exam score, because I don't want to hype myself up too far. But that was a really nice class. This past semester we read Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, Hamlet, this book from Zora Neale Hurston, and also Portrait of a Man as a Young Artist. I hated that book. I hated that book with a burning passion. It was a 0. Zilch. But we read a ton of books, and I really, really enjoyed this semester. I won't say more so to last semester, because I liked last semester also, but the books that we read this year, other than Hamlet, I really enjoyed them. Oh, and Portrait of a Man as a Young Artist. I can understand the reasoning behind why we read the novel, but it just, no. But that book in particular, Other than that, and Slaughterhouse-Five, which I didn't really like that one either, I really enjoyed the books that we read this year. Great Gatsby was really great, even if I was rereading it. Just a lot of really great things happened in that class. I really grew as a writer, I grew as a reader, and I've just really enjoyed that class and loved my teacher, and I can't wait to take AP English Literature in her class next year. Next class we're going to talk about is art. Firstly, if you guys want a sketchbook tour or just to see the art that I made this past year, then just let me know. I can put that in a different video. But this art semester was really interesting since I had soccer, and soccer just takes a lot of my time away since I get out of that class a lot, since we have to check out to travel to games sometimes. And that was an interesting dynamic with my art teacher who was just not having it. But I'm really excited about that class. I'm planning on taking AP Art next year, and we'll probably do more portraits. I'm really into that. Doing charcoal and pencil, well, graphite, and then also doing color pencils. That's kind of like the medium that I've kind of positioned myself into, but I'd really love to get into acrylic and watercolor, but I feel like that'll take a little bit more time for me to learn. AP Art will be interesting though. That'll take a lot of time, and I'm already trying to work on some of those pieces over the summer because I know that I'll need them since I don't work as fast as I could. But we shall see. I feel like we'll be able to get it done. The next class that we're going to talk about is German. I'm really sad about this class. I did end it with an A, but I feel like I could have done better had I had more time. Really, the APs took out a large chunk of time that I would have devoted to learning the German language. And now, next year, especially since I plan on taking AP Computer, it may not fit in my schedule anymore. So it's kind of a bittersweet moment, especially when I was, you guys saw my last day of school vlog, and that was our last time as a class together, and it was just so crazy to think about that I would never be in a class with all of them together anymore because they are all opting out of taking German now, or opting out of taking the language per se, since they don't have to anymore. And it was just kind of like, whoa, we're actually done. Yeah, I made a 95 on that exam. Technically, it was a 95.5555. I don't know why she didn't round it up to a 96, but who cares? So I'll see. I'll definitely let you guys know about what I decide. I definitely want to become fluent in German, but it may have to wait till college. I may just have to study that language again once I get to college, and that's not the worst thing in the world. Pre-cal was also a very interesting class. Last semester, I already told you guys that I hated that class with all within me, that I didn't necessarily love the teacher, but I took a complete 180. I mean, it was not horrible second semester, although the material was definitely slightly harder. It's kind of weird how the hard parts tended to be slightly easier for me, and what was considered easy, as in probability, was just super, super hard for me to like get a grasp of. That's actually why I'm planning on taking AP Calculus instead of AP Stats, because I just don't like probability. I don't like numbers like that. Like, even if it's supposed to make sense, it just doesn't click, and I'm just not into it. So I may change back into AP Stats, but we shall see. I ended pre-cal with an A+, and I'm very proud of that. Definitely, I'm telling you, God helped me with that one because it was a miracle that that happened at all. That class was a complete turnaround, and I ended up getting an A+ overall for that semester, both semesters at that, so I should have an A+ overall in that class, and I'm very, very proud of that because it just kind of shows that when you put in the time, the effort, and when you're praying because you're just like, let's make this happen, if you actually have the determination, you can really do things in any class. It doesn't matter if you don't think you're good at the subject, you can do it. Don't care, you got this thing. Other than math, my last class that we'll talk about today is journalism. As you guys already know, I am the editor of my school's paper, and this year will be my last year at that specific position because next year I will be editor-in-chief. It's a new position that we created, and I'm really, really excited about it because I'll get to do editorials now, and I feel like we're really transforming it. We've already grown the readership of my school's paper, and I'm really, really excited to see what we're gonna do next year because it's our last year, and I really want to leave the newspaper off in a really great spot because it's like my little baby at this point. I really, really love working with my staff on the newspaper, and it's just a really great time. I've really enjoyed all the memories that I've created in that class, and I can't wait to take Journalism 3 next year. It should be a really interesting time, and we'll see what happens. And other than that, that's all. I'm putting myself in a really good position pretty much for college applications. I'm pretty excited about that. Testing wise, I took the ACT and I am now at a 29. I'm planning on studying a bit more so that I can take the July one, and hopefully I'll pop that 30 so that I can be done with this exam for good. And I also took the SAT subject test for the first time. I do not have my scores back on that though, just like I don't have my AP scores back, so I will put those all together in one video. I actually decided to take US history and English literature for the SAT subject test. I'm just gonna call them SAT 2 tests because that's what they are called. On the SAT 2s, I felt really good about them for the most part. I will say that they're different than their AP counterparts. For instance, in the SAT 2 US history exam, whereas with APUSH, you don't necessarily find questions on specifics like, who is George Washington's brother? I don't even know if George Washington has a brother, but we'll go with it. But you will find that type of question on the SAT subject test, whereas you would never find that type of question, like a specific about a war, that type of thing, on the AP exam, and that takes some getting to know, and especially since I didn't do much studying for the SAT subject test than I did for the AP US history, because I could just kind of like was going off what I knew from AP US history. I don't think it hurt me that much, especially since it helps you to leave questions blank instead of guessing on them, so I think I did okay with it. I wouldn't suggest studying that much more for that exam because you really don't know which periods they're going to ask you the specific questions about. So if you studied really well for AP US history and if you feel really good about AP US history, I say just stick with that. Maybe go over to Crash Course videos one more time and just, it's fine. Literally one of the questions asked us about a quote, and I was just kind of like, who is this quote from?
What?
The literature test was actually slightly easier than an AP English exam, but I will say this, if you've only taken AP English language, then you definitely need to actually practice for this exam because it's a mixture of AP English language and AP English literature. It's like their baby. Literally, you're getting the poetry and then the grammar mechanics that come from poetry, and then you're also getting like general prose, that type of thing. So your English reading, any novel or play that you'll find in English language, that's what you'll find on the exam. So it definitely is slightly different in that respect where you'll have both of them. And it does ask you questions based off vocabulary, not as in, okay, do you know what this word means, but as in, okay, does it have a metaphor in it? Is this an example of a rhyming couplet, that type of thing? So you're going to find the questions asking you about specific devices used in poems, and then also questions asking you about specific devices used in whatever the prose is. So definitely keep that in mind if you're studying for those exams. Other than that, that is basically all that happened junior year. Soccer went okay. We went back to the Final Four and we ended up losing there, but it's fine at this point. It's fine. I'm already over it. But other than that, I think that's really all that happened this past year. It was a great year. I definitely suggest just participating in everything, doing all that you can so that you can make your junior year the best that it is. Oh, junior prom, I kind of already made a video about this, but I really had fun at that. I'm actually gonna make another video about junior prom because a lot of drama happened for junior prom, and I kind of like want to explain certain things that you saw and certain dynamics, and that's really all that I have to say about my junior year educational wise. Let's go ahead and end the video here. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any other questions about like how my junior year went, definitely leave them down below. I will definitely let you guys know about all that information that you want to know, but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys have a great day, and that's it for this video. Bye, guys.